So now we've got that intro over. I've just made a new sign, free head, because our crackhead in here is finally done. We've dismantled everything, taken all the spare parts out so we can go ahead and use those as spares if needed. Speaking of which, you guys probably haven't met Tim. What is this? Our fourth?
Tim.
Is this our fourth BMW?
That is number 3.
1, 2. Yeah, number 3. So this is our third BMW. It's a former SCCA rallycross car from Chicago. Tim found a guy on what's that lemons thing called?
Citrus Racer Lounge.
Citrus Racer Lounge. And we drove to Chicago and back in a weekend with a short trip to Grand Rapids, Michigan, so I could go to a data center for work. What is that, 1,300 miles in one weekend we did?
Something like that.
Yeah, so we went ahead and picked this thing up for $1. The bottom of it's all rotted out. It will not be useful for anything, but it has a good engine.
It's a great head.
It has a good head. It's Vanos head too.
It's a Vanos head.
So, which is not what we run, but it's, you know, never bad to have too many heads.
Too many heads. Yeah.
This is a family show, Tim. Keep it PG, please.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it came with a Recaro seat inside. I think we paid an extra $40 for that, but it's mostly because we gave the guy $1 for the car, and he seemed to really want to not have to take the seat out or give it away for free. It's got this janky harness bar, which is kind of cool. Good for rallycross. I mean, in rallycross, you're not really going to die. It looks like Tim's wife is leaving things on the back, which is scratching the paint. That's really a shame, Tim. You need to talk to her.
Oh, boy.
But you haven't heard from us in a while because Tim has an announcement to make. Tim, make your announcement. Tell everyone how you got weeks off of work for free to work on your race car.
Yeah, so if you have a kid, you get paternity leave, which allows you to work on race cars, which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I mean, the baby's already made, so that's not going to like take any of your time up. You got all this time to work on the race car.
Right.
Perfect.
Exactly.
But no, Tim's taking a week off, and he's had a chance to welcome Kelsey into the house. And we just kind of got back to it today, and the big project was we bought that head. Finding out it was cracked, we found a nice gentleman online who sold us another head that he got back from the machine shop, fully disassembled, but all cleaned up and ready to go. We've never actually had to take valves out before, so that was learning how to do it today with a specialty tool we found online, which is already broken once and we fixed. But for those who don't know, the non-Vanos engines are dual valve spring. You can see the little one inside the big one. This is part of what allows them to rev to 7K on stock without any modifications. You just need the ECU tuned, which we have, which is legal in Chump. ECUs are wide open for those who don't know. But yeah, so we basically had to, one of the valve guides was out, and we think it was out because it was not machined correct or something. It was just too tight. It wouldn't play with the valves nicely. So we did find a good valve from the other one that you saw and installed that into this this one carefully using an air chisel from Harbor Freight that we cut the end off of one of the pieces because it doesn't come with a flat one. So we just kind of lopped that off, and it just so happens the diameter was like beautifully perfect to use it. But
sometimes you got to make your own tools.
Sometimes you got to make your own tool. It's like one of the things you learn in Chump Car is there's no such thing as I guess we're done. You got to keep going, and that's persistence. And that's probably one of the things I learned the most and improved my whole life about is I give up a little less easily on stuff now. As for what Tim is up to here, he is putting the valves back in. He's got to compress them. He's got to I keep wanting to call them the feelers, but they're not the feelers.
They're the keepers.
The valve
They
keepers.
keep the spring
Okay.
tightened.
Do you want to explain a little bit about sort of like how that tool works and what you got to do?
So yeah, it's just a handy tool that goes between the two studs.
Change it out of the way. Okay. So you can see there, he's got the springs compressed down.
Right. So then we just wrench down on it to spread apart the nuts on this bolt, and that compresses the springs.
Yeah, the little guys from the top just kind of they sit in there. Right. It's really cool.
And thanks to these studs, you can actually do 2 at a time, which is which is nice.
What do we say? We're averaging about half an hour for a pair?
Way too long.
Which is way too long.
I wouldn't tell them what we were actually averaging.
Okay, so what if this was under race conditions? It would be like 5 minutes for the whole thing, but we're just taking our time. Now, there are supposedly other tools which do this job faster and better that Tim's found. We don't know if they're cheaper or not. That's something we might be looking into because this one is just...
If we have to do this again, we are getting a different tool.
And for those, again, a little more backstory, we run in one engine and have an entire spare engine with transmission hooked up, fully dressed belt with the belt and everything on it, ready to go. So we don't have to do things like head gaskets and valves at a race. If things are beyond a simple swap, we just do the whole motor. So we're not going to be doing valves at a race. It would have to be 2 motors blown already for that to happen. And likely we're going to give up at that point or come back and steal the one of our other motors or the one out of my E30, which has an M50 at home. But that would take desperate times. Hopefully we do a good job with these motors. They should be good. So here's Goldmember, your beloved favorite race car. We have the first of our 2 new motors in. What you see on top of it here is a pressure tester for the cooling system. We haven't used one of these in the past. We've just kind of cranked down on everything and thought it was good enough. But this is a free rental from Advance Auto, and we put it on and pumped it up, and it started leaking water everywhere. So apparently this is something we should probably be using to check just about every time. I have a motive pressure bleeder, so I've got to get the right attachment, and then we can just have that at the racetrack to diagnose if we ever do swap a motor or blow a radiator. Just because if you don't get it right, you can't bleed the system properly, and you also can't, trust that it's gonna be pressurized correctly, leading to overheating issues and blown motors, which nobody wants. So that's the other thing we're doing. We did install the factory air conditioning fan in. We were running fanless last year, but it's really hard if you have to pull a radiator to bleed it in the pits and know that it's good because you've got to drive the car to stop it from overheating. Now we can just sit there and flip a switch and it will just run that on high, and we can see how that works and make sure things are good before we send people out on track, because you get halfway around the track and it starts overheating. If you keep driving it back, you risk blowing the motor or warping something. Just trying to mitigate risks as much as we can. While I'm over here, I'll show you our second motor that we're getting ready. We've cleaned this up as much as we're going to. This is another, which motor was this originally out of, Tim? This was out of...
That was out, this was the Vanos motor that we got from the guy who had his E36 in storage.
Oh.
LS swap it.
Yeah. So this was the guy who just had that, and it was just a motor we got cheap. It was a Vanos motor. The bottom end is exactly the same.
We wanted the transmission, and we got that for like 150, and he's like, for another 50, just take the engine too. We're like,
and you don't say no to that. So we got it, and it came with all the accessories and everything. He just had someone come in and cut the harness, and but we got the motor dirt cheap. We didn't have to do any work for it. We didn't have to take it out of the cart like a pick and pull. But it looks good, and it was a good running motor. So this is going to probably be the one we're running at Watkins Glen, because we want to test the one that's in there now, pull that out, throw this one in, and test that one, and then we don't want to swap again after that. So that's the plan right now. We're hoping to get out and test this car next weekend if we stay on schedule. So we got to finish putting this head together and assemble this up, but that's kind of secondary, making sure the car is good to go. But really the car is kind of good to go, so we're pretty much ready to go testing, which will probably go up to Toronto Motorsports Park in Canada. It's the closest place at a reasonable price that we can get to basically any Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they're open now. So that's the big plan.
The duty free.
I love the duty free. I got to get my British candy, my Cadbury Flakes, and all the necessary alcohols, although I stocked up pretty good last time, so I think I'm good for this next trip. But you never know. Maybe they'll have a sale. We did get that, what was that beer that we got? Moosehead something, anniversary?
Yeah, it was an anniversary edition or something.
But it was like on super sale at duty free. I want to say we got like 12 large cans for like 6 or 8 loonies. So about, I don't know, it works out to basically free. And the guy at the border was cool, so we didn't even have to pay any duty on my $200 of alcohol or whatever I ended up spending. Anyway, I think that is probably enough for this video. But yes, we got another car to rip apart for spare parts. We scrapped the other parts car. Tim, how much money do we make on a scrapped BMW?
What did you get? 136 bucks, I think.
136. That's without wheels, suspension, anything like that. That's just like the body sitting on a trailer. Tim drove it out in our trailer.
A couple of extra seats.
Yep. We kind of, loaded up with a little bit, but we're happy with that. We just needed it gone more than anything.
Rear end was in there.
Tim's wife said we must get rid of that car, and we did. We bought another one back like immediately, but we did get rid of it. So Tim's good to his word to his wife.
Yeah, we were down to one car for a day or two.
This one we're hoping doesn't stick around too long. We're probably, after Watkins Glen, hopefully be able to strip out what we need and then junk it. It was really just the opportunity was too good on this one to not do it. Oh, new steering wheel. Your hands too dirty? Show them the
My
steering
hands
wheel.
are dirty. We
There's
have
a wheel there.
gauges as well.
Oh, gauges. This was another big thing we did.